The rain hammered against the windshield as Rebecca Thompson drove through the winding streets of Capitol Hill, one of Seattle's historic neighborhoods. October in the Pacific Northwest meant gray skies, endless drizzle, and the smell of wet earth mixed with coffee from every corner cafe. She had lived in this city for 15 years now, building her reputation as one of the finest restoration architects in the region, specializing in Victorian and Edwardian homes. Her firm, Thompson Restoration and Design, had just secured what should have been a dream project: a complete renovation of a 1902 Victorian mansion that had been left untouched for decades. The house was a landmark property, requiring careful attention to historical accuracy while modernizing it for contemporary living. Rebecca's assistant, Jordan, had handled all the initial client meetings and paperwork. The owner apparently wanted minimal involvement due to personal circumstances. Rebecca pulled up to the address on East Prospect Street, and her breath caught in her throat. She knew this house, not from any professional context, but from memory, from a lifetime ago. The deep burgundy paint had faded to a dull maroon, the ornate trim was peeling, and the wraparound porch sagged dangerously on one side, but it was unmistakably the Clark family home. Emma's family home. No, Rebecca whispered to herself, gripping the steering wheel. It can't be. But when she checked the paperwork again, there it was, owner, Emma Clark Morrison. The hyphenated last name was new. The flood of emotions was not. Emma Clark had been Rebecca's first love, her college sweetheart, the woman she thought she would spend her life with. They had been together for 3 years at the University of Washington, inseparable, planning a future that seemed certain, and then, seemingly overnight, Emma had ended it. No explanation that made sense. Just cold distance and a breakup that left Rebecca shattered. That was 10 years ago. Rebecca had rebuilt her life, poured herself into her career, dated other women, but never let anyone too close. The wound Emma left had scarred over but never truly healed. Taking a deep breath, Rebecca grabbed her tablet and portfolio and stepped out into the rain. The front gate creaked ominously as she pushed it open. The yard was overgrown with blackberry bushes and ivy threatening to consume everything. The house itself stood 3 stories tall, with a distinctive tower on the northwest corner. A classic Queen Anne Victorian with fish-scale shingles, decorative spindles, and stained glass windows that had once been magnificent. Rebecca knocked on the heavy oak door. For a long moment, nothing, then footsteps. Slow and hesitant, the door opened, and there stood Emma. Time had changed her, but not in ways that diminished her beauty. She was 32 now, same as Rebecca. Her auburn hair, once long and wild, was cut into a practical bob. She was thinner than Rebecca remembered, almost fragile-looking, with shadows under her gray-blue eyes that spoke of recent grief. She wore a simple black sweater and jeans, and when their eyes met, Rebecca saw recognition, shock, and something else. Pain. Rebecca, Emma breathed, her hand gripping the doorframe as if she might collapse without it. Emma, I didn't know this was your project. The paperwork just said Clark Morrison. Morrison was my wife's name, Emma said quietly. Sarah. She died 8 months ago. Car accident. Rebecca felt the information hit her like a physical blow. Emma had been married. Emma had lost her spouse. And here Rebecca stood, about to invade her space during what must be an impossibly difficult time. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. If you want someone else to handle this project, I completely understand. No, Emma interrupted, her voice stronger now. You're the best restoration architect in Seattle. Everyone says so. This house, it's all I have left of my family. My parents died 5 years ago, within months of each other. Sarah and I inherited it, but never had the money to renovate. Now, she trailed off. Now Sarah's life insurance means I can finally restore it. I need it done right, even if it's complicated. Rebecca nodded slowly. Okay, if you're sure. I'm not sure of anything anymore, Emma admitted. But come in. Let's talk about the house. The interior was even worse than Rebecca expected. Water damage had destroyed ceilings in multiple rooms. The electrical system was dangerously outdated. The beautiful hardwood floors were warped and scratched. But beneath the neglect, Rebecca could see the bones of something magnificent. 10-foot ceilings with ornate plaster molding, A curved staircase with hand-carved banisters, original stained glass, pocket doors, and a parlor fireplace with a marble mantel. If you're enjoying this story of second chances and hidden truths, subscribe to the channel for more. It needs everything, Emma said as they walked through the rooms. I know that. I've been living here for 6 months, camping out basically in one room on the first floor. The rest is unusable. Rebecca took notes on her tablet, photographed everything, measured spaces. She tried to maintain professional distance, but memories kept intruding. She and Emma had talked about houses like this back in college. Rebecca had just declared her major in architecture. Emma was studying literature with dreams of becoming a writer. They would walk through neighborhoods like Capitol Hill, pointing out details on historic homes, imagining their own future together. The attic, Rebecca said, consulting her initial assessment notes. Jordan mentioned it's completely inaccessible. The staircase up to it collapsed years ago. My parents sealed it off. I've never been up there, not since I was a child. It probably needs to be gutted. I'll need to access it to do a proper evaluation. We'll have to bring in scaffolding or a lift. Emma nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. The house was cold, the old radiator heating system barely functional. Emma, Rebecca said before she could stop herself, Are you okay? Living here in these conditions? For a moment, Emma's carefully maintained composure cracked. Her eyes filled with tears that she quickly blinked away. I'm surviving. That's about all I can manage right now. Rebecca wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but a decade stood between them like a wall. Whatever right she might have had to console Emma had been lost long ago. I'll have a full assessment and proposal to you within a week, Rebecca said, returning to professionalism. We can start as soon as you approve the plans. Given the scope of work, you'll need to move out during renovation. Do you have somewhere to go? I have a friend in Fremont who offered me her guest room. I've just been putting it off. This house is all I have left of everyone I've loved. The words hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning neither of them acknowledged. Rebecca left an hour later with hundreds of photos, detailed measurements, and a heart heavier than when she arrived. She sat in her car for a long moment before driving away, watching Emma's silhouette move past the windows of the deteriorating Victorian. Back at her office in Pioneer Square, Rebecca's business partner, Marcus Chen, took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. That bad? He asked. Marcus was 50, a brilliant structural engineer who had co-founded the firm with Rebecca 5 years ago. It's Emma, Rebecca said simply. Marcus's eyes widened. He knew the story. Rebecca had told him one night over too much wine, explaining why she never let anyone too close. Emma Clark? Your college girlfriend Emma? The same. The house is hers. And Marcus. She lost her wife less than a year ago. She's grieving, alone in that deteriorating house, and we're about to tear her entire world apart to rebuild it. Do you want me to take over as lead on this? Rebecca considered it for a long moment. It would be easier, professional, safe. No, she said finally. No, I need to do this. I owe it to her. And maybe, she trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe I'll finally get answers about why she left. Work began 3 weeks later. Emma had moved out, though Rebecca learned from Jordan that it had taken considerable convincing. The project would take anywhere from 6 to 8 months, depending on what they found hidden in the walls and floors. Old houses always held surprises. Rebecca assembled her usual crew, Marcus handling all structural engineering, Sofia Rodriguez as lead contractor, and a team of skilled craftspeople who specialized in historic restoration. They started with the basics, shoring up the foundation, replacing the failing roof, updating electrical and plumbing systems throughout. It was during the second week, while working on the second floor, that Rebecca found the first photograph. It had slipped behind an old radiator, probably decades ago. The image showed a young Emma, maybe 8 or 9 years old, standing in front of the house with her parents. Her smile was huge, gap-toothed, full of uncomplicated joy. Rebecca should have just given it to Emma. Instead, she found herself slipping it into her jacket pocket. Emma came by occasionally to check on progress. These visits were brief and awkward. She would walk through with Rebecca, nod at explanations of what they were doing, and leave quickly. But Rebecca noticed things, how Emma's hands shook slightly, how she had lost more weight, how her eyes lingered on rooms being demolished as if each wall that came down took a piece of her memory with it. "We're preserving everything we can," Rebecca assured her during one visit. "All the original molding, the stained glass, the hardware, it's being carefully removed, restored, and will be reinstalled. The house will look like itself again, just structurally sound and livable." "I know," Emma said. "I trust you. It's just hard, watching it torn apart." "Sometimes things need to break before they can be properly fixed," Rebecca said, then immediately regretted the words and their unintended deeper meaning. Emma's eyes met hers for a long moment. "Yes," she said quietly. "Sometimes they do." By December, they were ready to tackle the attic. Marcus had designed a temporary staircase to access it safely. The day they opened it up, Rebecca felt an inexplicable sense of foreboding. "Ready?" Sophia asked, standing at the base of the temporary stairs with a powerful flashlight. "Let's see what we've got," Rebecca replied. The attic was larger than expected, running the full length of the house with the distinctive tower room at one end. It was musty and dark, filled with the accumulated belongings of generations, old furniture, trunks, boxes, and an alarming amount of water damage to the roof structure. "We're going to need to replace at least 60% of the roof framing up here," Marcus said, examining the beams with his flashlight. "Some of this is completely rotted through." Rebecca moved carefully through the space, cataloging what needed to be done. That's when she saw it. A small wooden chest tucked into a corner of the tower room, partially hidden behind an old dress form. Unlike everything else up here, it wasn't dusty or deteriorated. Someone had been up here more recently than decades ago. "Find something?" Sophia called from across the attic. "Maybe. Just an old chest." But when Rebecca knelt down and opened it, she knew immediately this wasn't just any old family storage. Inside were letters, dozens of them, in envelopes that had never been sent. All addressed to her, to Rebecca Thompson, at her current business address. Her hands shook as she picked up the first envelope. The postmark date was 10 years ago, just weeks after Emma had ended their relationship. She shouldn't read them. This was Emma's private property, private thoughts. The ethical thing would be to close the chest and tell Emma what she found. But Rebecca had spent a decade wondering why. Why had Emma suddenly become cold? Why had she ended things with barely an explanation? Why had the woman who said she wanted to spend her life with Rebecca simply walked away? Rebecca opened the first letter. "Dear Rebecca, it's been 3 weeks since I ended us. 3 weeks since I said things I didn't mean. Pushed you away when all I wanted was to hold you closer. You deserve to know the truth, but I can't tell you. If I tell you, you'll stay. And I can't let you do that. I'm sick, Rebecca. Really sick. The doctors say it's lupus, severe and aggressive. They talk about treatment protocols, medication side effects, possible complications. They use words like chronic and degenerative and unpredictable. I'm 22 years old and facing a lifetime of illness. I can't ask you to sign up for that. You have dreams, your architecture degree, plans to travel, a whole life ahead of you. You shouldn't have to spend it taking care of a sick girlfriend, watching me decline, building your life around my limitations, so I pushed you away. I made you think I didn't love you anymore. I broke your heart to save your future. And it's killing me, but I know it's right. I love you. I will always love you. But love isn't enough when it means trapping someone in a life they didn't choose. Emma Rebecca felt like she couldn't breathe. She opened letter after letter, reading Emma's private thoughts over the years. Emma writing about her treatments, about meeting Sarah who understood chronic illness because she had her own health challenges, about learning to build a life around her condition. Emma writing about seeing one of Rebecca's restoration projects featured in a magazine and feeling simultaneously proud and heartbroken. Emma writing about marrying Sarah, but admitting that part of her heart would always belong to Rebecca. The last letter was dated just 2 months ago. Dear Rebecca, Sarah died today. Not from her illness, ironically. A drunk driver ran a red light. She was just going to the grocery store. One moment she was alive, texting me about whether we needed milk. And the next she was gone. I'm alone in this house now. My parents are gone. Sarah is gone. And I think about you. even though I have no right to. I think about the life we could have had if I'd been braver, if I'd trusted you to make your own choices instead of making them for you. The lupus is managed now. I have good days and bad days, but mostly good. The great sacrifice I made, pushing you away, it might have been for nothing. I might have been able to have both you and a decent quality of life, but I was young and scared, and I made a choice I can never undo. I'm going to restore the house. Our house. The one we used to walk past and dream about. I don't know why. Maybe because it's the only dream I have left. Maybe because somewhere in my grief-addled brain, I think fixing this broken house might somehow fix me too. I hired a restoration firm without researching who ran it. I just wanted the best. And then you showed up at my door, and I wanted to laugh at the universe's cruel sense of humor. Of course it's you. Of course the one person I pushed away is the one standing here offering to help me rebuild. I won't send this letter, just like I never sent any of the others. But I need you to know, even if you never see these words, I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry for hurting you, for making that choice for both of us, for wasting 10 years we could have had together. I love you. I never stopped. Rebecca didn't realize she was crying until tears splashed onto the paper, smudging the ink. She sat in that dusty attic for a long time, surrounded by the physical ruins of Emma's family home, holding the emotional ruins of the life they could have had. Finally, carefully, she placed the letters back in the chest and carried it down to her truck. This wasn't a decision she could make lightly. She needed time to process what she had learned, to decide what to do with this devastating information. That night, in her apartment in Queen Anne, Rebecca read through all the letters again. 37 of them, spanning 10 years, chronicling Emma's journey through illness, treatment, meeting Sarah, building a life, and ultimately, losing everything. The woman Rebecca had resented for a decade had been protecting her, had been sacrificing her own happiness for what she thought was Rebecca's good, had been loving her silently all this time. Rebecca picked up her phone 3 times to call Emma, and 3 times put it down. What could she say? I found your secret letters, and now I know everything? Emma had never sent them for a reason. She had kept them private, hidden in an attic nobody could access. But the universe, or fate, or simple coincidence had put those letters in Rebecca's hands. And now she had to decide what to do with the truth. Continue this emotional journey by subscribing to our channel. The week after finding the letters was the longest of Rebecca's life. She went through the motions at work, met with subcontractors, reviewed plans, but her mind was elsewhere. Every decision felt monumental. Should she tell Emma she found the letters? Should she pretend she never saw them? Should she walk away from the project entirely? Marcus cornered her on Friday afternoon as she stared blankly at structural drawings. Okay, talk, he said, closing her office door. You've been a ghost all week. What happened? Rebecca told him everything, about the attic, the letters, Emma's lupus diagnosis, the decade of silent love hidden in unsent mail. Jesus, Marcus breathed when she finished. Rebecca, that's enormous. I know. What are you going to do? I have no idea. Rebecca rubbed her face tiredly. If I tell her I found them, she'll be mortified. Those were private thoughts she never intended anyone to see. But if I don't tell her, I'm carrying this huge secret that changes everything I thought I knew about our past. What do you want? Marcus asked. Forget ethics and proper behavior for a second. What do you actually want? Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. I want to know if there's still something there. If after 10 years and separate lives and her loss, if there's any chance. But Marcus, she just lost her wife. She's grieving. The last thing she needs is me showing up with, hey, I found your secret love letters. Want to give us another shot? Maybe not. Marcus agreed. But maybe she needs to know that you know the truth. That you don't hate her anymore. That you understand why she made the choice she made, even if you don't agree with it. Rebecca thought about that over the weekend. By Monday, she had made her decision. Christmas was 2 weeks away. The renovation was ahead of schedule despite the extensive scope. They had completed most of the structural work. The new electrical and plumbing were in, and they were beginning the restoration phase. refinishing original floors, reinstalling preserved molding, repairing plaster. Rebecca invited Emma to come see the progress on a cold Tuesday afternoon. Seattle's winter gray pressed down on the city, and rain fell in that characteristic Pacific Northwest way, not quite heavy enough to call a downpour, but persistent and penetrating. Emma arrived bundled in a thick coat, her hair damp from the short walk from her car. Rebecca gave her a tour, pointing out details, the refinished hardwood floors gleaming in the restored parlor, the kitchen taking shape with period-appropriate cabinetry and modern appliances hidden in vintage-style cases, the bathrooms with clawfoot tubs and subway tile. "It's beautiful," Emma said, and Rebecca heard real emotion in her voice. "It's like traveling back in time, but better somehow." "That's the goal," Rebecca replied. "Honor the past but make it livable for the present." They stood in what would be Emma's bedroom, the tower room on the second floor with curved walls and windows overlooking the neighborhood. It was Emma's favorite room as a child, she had mentioned. "I found something," Rebecca said, her heart hammering. "In the attic. I need to show you." She led Emma up to her truck and retrieved the wooden chest. Emma's face went pale when she saw it. "You opened it," Emma said flatly. "I did. I'm sorry. I thought it was just old family storage, and then I saw my name. You read them. It wasn't a question." "Yes." Emma closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were swimming with tears. "I never meant for you to see those. They were just a way to cope, to say the things I couldn't say out loud." "I know. And I should have closed the chest the moment I saw they were private letters. But Emma," Rebecca's own voice broke, "you had lupus. You pushed me away to protect me. I spent 10 years thinking you just stopped loving me, that I wasn't enough, that I did something wrong. And all this time I was loving you from a distance." Emma finished. "I'm sorry, Rebecca. I know I hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing. You should have told me. You should have let me choose. You were 22. You had your whole life ahead of you. A career to build. The world to see. I wasn't going to trap you into being a caretaker for a chronically ill girlfriend. That should have been my decision to make." Rebecca's voice rose despite herself. "You didn't trust me enough to let me choose my own path. You decided for both of us." They stood there in the rain next to Rebecca's truck, years of unspoken pain finally surfacing. "You're right," Emma said quietly. "I robbed you of your choice. I thought I was being noble, sacrificing my happiness for yours. But really, I was just afraid. Afraid you'd stay out of obligation. Afraid you'd grow to resent me. Afraid of being vulnerable and dependent." Rebecca felt her anger deflate. Emma was right. She had been afraid. They had both been so young, facing an impossible situation with no good answers. "How is your health now?" Rebecca asked more gently. "Managed. I take medication. I have regular appointments. I have flare-ups occasionally. But mostly I live a normal life." Sarah had diabetes, poorly controlled. We were both dealing with chronic conditions. It was actually easier in some ways. We understood each other's limitations without judgment. "Sarah knew about me?" "Yes. I told her everything when we got serious. She said I was an idiot for pushing you away. But she understood. She had her own history of pushing people away when she got sick." They stood in silence for a moment, rain soaking through their clothes. "What happens now?" Emma asked. Rebecca took a deep breath. "I finish restoring your house. We work through this complicated history between us. And maybe we figure out if there's anything left to build on, or if we just finally get closure." "I just lost Sarah 8 months ago," Emma said. "I'm not ready for anything new. I don't know when I will be." "I know. And I'm not asking for anything. I needed you to know that I found the letters, that I know the truth now. That's all." Emma nodded. "Okay. Thank you for telling me, even though it's mortifying that you read them." "For what it's worth," Rebecca said softly. "They were beautiful. Heartbreaking, but beautiful." Emma managed a small smile. "You always did appreciate good writing." They made their way back inside, the tension between them different now. Not resolved, but at least acknowledged. As they walked through the house discussing final finishes and design choices, something had shifted. The wall of hurt and confusion that had stood between them for a decade had cracked, letting a little light through. Over the following weeks, Emma's visits became more frequent and longer. She would bring coffee from the local cafe, sit on paint buckets, and watch the craftspeople work. She and Rebecca fell into easy conversations, sometimes about the house, sometimes about their lives over the past 10 years, carefully avoiding anything too heavy. Rebecca learned that Emma had published 2 novels under a pen name, modest successes that had given her joy. Emma learned that Rebecca had been in a few relationships over the years, but had always found excuses to end them before they got too serious. "I told myself I was focused on building the business," Rebecca admitted one afternoon. "But really, I think I was still protecting myself from getting hurt again." "I did that to you," Emma said with regret. "Taught you not to trust love." "No," Rebecca corrected. "You taught me that people leave, but maybe it's time I unlearned that lesson." By February, the house was nearly complete. The transformation was stunning. The Victorian had been brought back to life with careful attention to period details while incorporating modern comforts. The attic had been converted into a writer's studio for Emma, with windows looking out over the city and built-in bookshelves lining the walls. "I can't believe it's almost done," Emma said during a walkthrough. "Part of me wants to freeze it here, in this in-between state, so it never has to end." "End?" Rebecca asked. "This, us working together, these conversations. Once the house is finished, there's no reason for you to keep coming around." Rebecca stopped walking and turned to face Emma. "Is that what you want? For me to disappear once the job is done?" "No," Emma said simply, "but I don't know what the alternative is. I'm still grieving Sarah. I still feel guilty for even having feelings for you when she's been gone less than a year. I'm a mess, Rebecca. I know. And I'm not asking for anything except, don't shut me out this time. Let's stay in touch. Be friends, if nothing else. Give ourselves a chance to figure this out without timelines or pressure." Emma searched Rebecca's face for a long moment. "Friends." "Friends," Rebecca confirmed. "With a complicated past and maybe an uncertain future, but let's start there." "I can do that," Emma said, relief evident in her voice. Subscribe to the channel to see where this story goes next. The house was completed in mid-March, just as Seattle's famous cherry blossoms began to bloom. The final walkthrough took place on a rare sunny day, the kind that made Pacific Northwest residents emerge from months of hibernation with renewed appreciation for blue skies. Emma walked through each room with Rebecca, touching restored wood, running her hands over smooth plaster walls, gazing out of sparkling clean windows. "It's home," she said finally, standing in the parlor with afternoon light streaming through the stained glass. "Better than it ever was when I was growing up. You've done something magical here." "You gave me good bones to work with," Rebecca replied, "and unlimited creative freedom. That's every restoration architect's dream." They ended the tour in the attic studio. It had become Rebecca's favorite space. She had designed it specifically with Emma in mind, imagining her writing there. A window seat with cushions, adjustable lighting, a small fireplace to take the chill off Seattle's damp winters. "I might never leave this room," Emma said, settling onto the window seat and looking out over Capitol Hill's distinctive skyline of church spires and old buildings. Rebecca sat down beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. "I have something for you," she said, pulling out a small wrapped package. Emma opened it to find a framed photograph, the one Rebecca had found behind the radiator, showing young Emma with her parents. "You found this?" Emma's voice was thick with emotion. "Early in the renovation. I should have given it to you right away, but I kept it. I'm sorry." "Don't be." Emma traced her parents' faces in the photo. "Thank you for preserving it, for preserving all of this." She gestured to the house around them. "It's what I do. I save broken things and make them whole again." Emma looked at her, and Rebecca saw something shift in her expression. "Is that what you think you did with me?" "No," Rebecca said carefully. "I think we're both still figuring out how to be whole. The house was easier. It couldn't tell me no. couldn't push me away to protect me. Emma smiled sadly. Still bitter about that? Not bitter. Just sad about the lost time, but I'm trying to let it go. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city below. Finally, Emma spoke. My therapist says I'm terrified of happiness, that I spent so long being sick and then caring for Sarah when her diabetes got worse, that I don't know how to just exist without crisis or caretaking. She says I sabotage good things because I don't believe I deserve them. Do you think that's true? Rebecca asked gently. Probably. I definitely sabotaged us back then. And now here you are again, offering friendship, and part of me wants to run away before I can ruin it. Please don't run, Rebecca said. Not this time. I'm trying not to. Emma took a shaky breath. I'm really trying. As spring progressed into summer, Rebecca and Emma developed a genuine friendship. They met for coffee weekly, sometimes more. They went to bookstores together, visited art galleries, took walks around Green Lake. Slowly, Emma began to smile more, to laugh. The shadows under her eyes faded. She started talking about her writing again, a new novel she was working on. Rebecca was careful not to push for anything more. Emma needed time to grieve, to heal, to figure out who she was outside of being a caretaker. And Rebecca needed time to build trust again, to believe that Emma wouldn't disappear when things got complicated. But the attraction was there, simmering under the surface of friendly conversations. Hands that lingered a moment too long when passing coffee cups. Eyes that met across tables and held. The magnetic pull that had drawn them together a decade ago, still present despite everything. In July, Emma invited Rebecca to a reading. She was debuting her new novel under her real name this time, not hiding behind a pen name. The reading was at Elliott Bay Book Company, a Seattle institution in Capitol Hill. Rebecca sat in the audience and watched Emma read from her work, a story about a woman learning to live again after loss. The writing was beautiful, raw, honest. When Emma's eyes found Rebecca's in the crowd, something unspoken passed between them. Afterward, they walked to a nearby bar. Emma was energized by the successful reading, more animated than Rebecca had seen her in months. That was amazing, Rebecca said. You're so talented, Emma. I'm glad you're finally sharing your work under your own name. Sarah always wanted me to, Emma replied. She said hiding my writing was another way of protecting myself from rejection. She was right. She paused, then added quietly, she would have liked you, I think. You two are similar in some ways. Both so sure of yourselves, so confident in who you are. I don't feel confident around you, Rebecca admitted. I feel like I'm constantly on uncertain ground, never sure what's okay to say or do. Emma reached across the table and took Rebecca's hand. It was the first time she had initiated physical contact beyond brief hugs. I don't want you to feel that way, Emma said. I know I'm sending mixed signals. Part of me wants to race forward, and part of me wants to stay frozen in this safe friend zone forever. It's not fair to you. You're grieving. You're healing. There's no timeline for that, Emma. I'm not going anywhere. But you want more than friendship. It wasn't a question. Rebecca considered lying, keeping things safe, but she had spent a decade not knowing the truth. She wouldn't do that to Emma now. Yes, she said simply. I want more, but only when you're ready. Only if you're ready. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. I don't know if I'm capable of being what you need. All I need is honesty. I'd rather be your friend knowing the truth than a something more built on me hoping you'll eventually want what I want. Emma squeezed her hand. You deserve someone who can give you everything, without hesitation. I deserve someone who's honest with me, Rebecca corrected. Everything else we can figure out. They left it there, that honest acknowledgement hanging between them. Rebecca told herself she was okay with it, with being Emma's friend, with the possibility that it might never be more. But that night, alone in her apartment, she let herself cry for the relationship they could have had 10 years ago, and for the relationship they might never have now. August brought a heat wave to Seattle, unusual and oppressive. The city wasn't designed for 90-degree temperatures. Few places had air conditioning. Emma called Rebecca in a panic one afternoon. My AC unit died and I feel like I'm melting. Can I come hide at your place? Please tell me you have AC. Rebecca did have AC, one of the few practical luxuries she'd invested in. "Come over. Bring whatever you need." Emma showed up with an overnight bag, her cheeks flushed from the heat. Rebecca's apartment in Queen Anne was blessedly cool. They spent the afternoon watching movies, drinking iced tea, and escaping the oppressive weather. As evening fell, Emma showed no sign of wanting to leave. "Stay," Rebecca offered. "The heat isn't supposed to break until tomorrow. You can take the guest room." "Are you sure?" "Emma, we're friends. It's fine." But having Emma in her space felt different from their carefully neutral coffee shops and public venues. It was intimate, domestic. Emma borrowed Rebecca's clothes to sleep in. They cooked dinner together in Rebecca's small kitchen, falling into an easy rhythm as if they'd done this 1,000 times. Later, they sat on Rebecca's small balcony as the city cooled slightly. Below them, Seattle spread out in twinkling lights. "I've been thinking about the letters," Emma said suddenly. "The ones you found." Rebecca's heart rate picked up. "What about them?" "I reread them after you told me you found them. I wanted to see what you saw. And Rebecca, I was so young when I wrote those early ones. So scared and convinced I was doing the right thing." She paused. "I'm not that scared girl anymore." "Who are you now?" Rebecca asked softly. "I'm someone who's lost a lot, who's survived, who's tired of making decisions based on fear." Emma turned to face Rebecca. "I'm someone who still loves you, who maybe never stopped." Rebecca's breath caught. "Emma, I know. It's too soon after Sarah. I know it's complicated. I know all the reasons this is a bad idea. But I'm tired of protecting myself from happiness. I'm tired of letting fear make my choices." "What are you saying?" Emma reached for Rebecca's hand. "I'm saying I want to try. Not rush into anything, but actually try. See if we can build something real this time, without secrets or fear or sacrifice." Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. "Are you sure? Because I can't go through losing you again, Emma. I can't. I'm terrified, but I'm sure. Admitted. For the first time in a long time, I'm sure." They sat there holding hands under the stars, the heat of the day finally breaking with a cool breeze from Puget Sound. It wasn't a grand romantic gesture, but it felt monumental. Two women who had loved and lost and survived, choosing to try again. "Slow," Rebecca said. "Let's take this slow." "Slow," Emma agreed, "but together." I keep following this journey. Subscribe now. Taking things slow proved harder than either of them anticipated. Not because they wanted to rush, but because being together felt so natural. August turned to September, and they settled into a rhythm. Dinners at each other's homes, weekend adventures around Seattle and beyond. Long conversations that stretched into the early morning hours. Emma still had hard days, when grief for Sarah would hit her unexpectedly. Rebecca learned to recognize them, to give Emma space when she needed it, and presence when she wanted it. They talked about Sarah openly, Emma sharing memories, Rebecca listening. There was no jealousy, just understanding that Sarah would always be part of Emma's story. "She would like what we're building," Emma said one evening. They were at Emma's house, cooking dinner together. Sarah always believed in second chances. She said love wasn't a limited resource, that having loved before didn't mean you had less love to give later. "She sounds like she was wise," Rebecca said. "She was. And she knew about you, about my letters, about how I never fully got over you. She wasn't threatened by it. She said everyone has a what-if in their past, and mine just happened to be more present than most people's." Rebecca stirred the sauce she was making. "Do you feel guilty? About us?" "Sometimes," Emma admitted honestly, "but my therapist helps me work through it. She reminds me that Sarah is gone, that I can't live my life as a monument to her memory, that she would want me to be happy. And are you? Happy?" Emma came up behind Rebecca and wrapped her arms around her waist, resting her chin on her shoulder. "Getting there. For the first time in years, I'm getting there." They kissed for the first time in October, 1 year after Rebecca had walked back into Emma's life. It was raining. Of course it was raining. This was Seattle. And they were walking through the Washington Park Arboretum, under a canopy of trees turning gold and red. Emma stopped walking and turned to Rebecca. "I don't want to go slow anymore." "No?" Rebecca's heart hammered in her chest. No. I want to stop being careful and scared. I want to be with you. Really with you. Rebecca cupped Emma's face in her hands, rain dripping from both of them. Are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything. When their lips met, it was like coming home. Familiar despite the years. Sweet despite the rain. Perfect despite everything that had tried to keep them apart. When they pulled away, both were crying and laughing at the same time. I love you, Emma said. I never stopped, but now I get to say it out loud. I love you too, Rebecca replied. Past, present, and future. All of it. The holidays that year were bittersweet. Emma's first major holidays without Sarah, but not alone. Rebecca made sure of that. They hosted Thanksgiving at Emma's restored house, inviting Rebecca's parents who flew in from Phoenix, Marcus and his husband, and a few of Emma's writer friends. Standing in the kitchen that Rebecca had designed, watching Emma laugh at something Marcus said, surrounded by warmth and food and love, Rebecca felt a profound sense of rightness. That night, after everyone had gone home, they sat in Emma's attic studio, the room Rebecca had designed specifically for her. Thank you, Emma said. For what? For not giving up on me. For finding those letters. For showing up a year ago even though it must have been painful. For being patient with my grief, and my fear, and my complicated mess of a heart. Your heart isn't a mess, Rebecca said. It's big and loyal and brave. You loved Sarah fully, even knowing you might lose her. You pushed me away years ago because you loved me enough to want better for me than what you thought you could offer. That's not a mess. That's a heart that loves fiercely. Emma kissed her softly. Move in with me. What? Move in with me. You designed this house. You understand it better than anyone. And I don't want to spend another night without you here. Emma, are you sure? That's a big step. We wasted 10 years. I don't want to waste any more time being careful and taking things slow. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want this house to be our home, not just my house where you visit. Rebecca felt tears streaming down her face. Yes. God, yes. They moved Rebecca's belongings in over the following weeks. Marcus teased her mercilessly about moving in with a client, but the joy on his face when he saw them together was genuine. You deserve this, he told Rebecca while helping carry boxes. After everything, you both deserve this. Winter in Seattle was its usual gray and wet, but inside Emma's house, their house now, it was warm and bright. They fell into domestic routines, learned each other's rhythms, worked through small conflicts, and celebrated small joys. Emma's health had its ups and downs. She had a flare-up in January that landed her in bed for a week. Rebecca took time off work to care for her, bringing her soup and medicine, reading aloud from books when Emma was too tired to focus on writing. This is what you were protecting me from, Rebecca said one evening, sitting on the edge of the bed. Isn't it? This version of you that needs care. Yes, Emma admitted. I thought it would be too much, that you'd grow to resent me. Emma, look at me. Rebecca waited until Emma's eyes met hers. Taking care of someone you love when they're sick isn't a burden, it's a privilege. It's what love is, showing up when things are hard, not just when they're easy. You should have trusted me with this 10 years ago. I know that now, Emma said. But better late than never, right? Better late than never, Rebecca agreed, kissing her forehead. By spring, they had fully merged their lives. Emma's writing career was flourishing. Her latest novel had been picked up by a major publisher. Rebecca's firm had won several prestigious restoration awards, but more than the professional success, they had built something neither had thought possible: a home, a partnership, a future. 1 year after Emma had asked Rebecca to move in, on a rare sunny April day, Rebecca took Emma back to Washington Park Arboretum, the place where they had first kissed, again. Why are we here? Emma asked, though she was smiling. Because this is where we stopped going slow, Rebecca said, where we chose each other despite everything that tried to keep us apart. She pulled a small box from her pocket and knelt on the path, just as cherry blossoms began to fall around them like snow. Emma Clark, we have had the most complicated journey to this moment. We lost 10 years. We hurt each other. We found our way back through demolished walls and hidden letters and sheer stubborn hope. And I don't want to spend another day without making this permanent. Will you marry me? Emma was crying, nodding before Rebecca even finished speaking. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The ring Rebecca had chosen was perfect. A simple band with 3 small stones. An emerald, Emma's birthstone, a diamond, traditional and enduring, and a sapphire, for loyalty and faithfulness. 3 stones, Rebecca explained as she slipped it on Emma's finger, for past, present, and future. All of it, together. They married in September, 2 years after Rebecca had walked into Emma's life for the 2nd time. The wedding was at their home, the Victorian that had brought them back together. The ceremony took place in the garden, which Rebecca and Emma had spent months restoring together. It was small and intimate. Close friends and family only. Marcus was Rebecca's best person. Emma's friend from her writing group, Carolyn, stood beside her. Rebecca's parents sat in the front row next to a framed photo of Sarah. Emma had insisted on it, wanting to honor the woman who had loved her through so much. When it came time for vows, Emma spoke first. Rebecca, I have loved you for 14 years, sometimes from across a room, sometimes from across a distance I created, sometimes through letters I never sent, and finally, blessedly, standing right beside you. I wasted so much time being afraid of my illness, afraid of being a burden, afraid of happiness. But you taught me that love isn't something to fear. It's something to run toward, arms wide open, even when it's scary. Her voice broke. You rebuilt my house, and in doing so, you helped rebuild me. I promise to spend the rest of my life being brave enough to love you out loud. Rebecca could barely see through her tears. Emma, when we met in college, I thought I knew what love was. But I was wrong. Love isn't just the easy moments. It's choosing each other when things are hard. It's patience and forgiveness and showing up every day. You broke my heart once, and I'm so grateful you did, because it meant I got to fall in love with you all over again. This time as the people we've become, not the kids we were. You're my past, my present, and my future. You're home. Their kiss was met with cheers and tears from their guests. As they walked back down the aisle hand in hand, Rebecca caught sight of the house behind them, the Victorian they had restored together, now filled with light and love and promise. The reception was joyful, with food and dancing and toasts that made everyone laugh and cry. Marcus gave a speech about watching Rebecca transform from someone afraid to trust again into someone radiating happiness. Caroline spoke about Emma's journey from grief to hope. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Rebecca and Emma stood on the wraparound porch, watching the sun set over Seattle's skyline. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't found those letters? Emma asked. Every day, Rebecca admitted. We might have finished the renovation and gone our separate ways, stayed polite strangers. The universe has a strange sense of timing, Emma mused. Everything had to fall into place exactly right. Me inheriting the house, Sarah's insurance giving me the means to restore it, Jordan handling the initial intake so I didn't know you'd be the architect. Any one thing different, and we might never have found our way back. Or maybe we were always meant to find our way back, Rebecca suggested. Maybe it just took the house to bring us together. Full circle. We used to dream about houses like this when we were young. Now we get to live in one together. Emma leaned her head on Rebecca's shoulder. Do you think Sarah knew when she saw the house, when I hired your firm without knowing? Do you think she somehow knew it was you? I don't know, Rebecca said honestly, but I know she loved you, and people who love us want us to be happy, even after they're gone. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn pink and orange. Inside, a few remaining guests cleaned up. The house, their house, glowed warmly behind them. No more unsent letters, Emma said softly. No more unsent letters, Rebecca agreed. Everything out loud from now on. I love you. I love you too. It wasn't the end of their story. That would come years later, with more renovations, both of houses and of themselves, with Emma's books becoming bestsellers, with Rebecca's firm growing and gaining national recognition, with quiet mornings and adventurous trips and hard times weathered together and good times celebrated. But it was a beginning. The kind that starts with broken things made whole, with hidden truths brought to light, with love strong enough to survive a decade apart, and wise enough to thrive when finally given the chance. In the end, the house had been the easy part. The real restoration project had been their hearts. Learning to trust again, to hope again, to believe that sometimes the most broken things can be rebuilt into something even more beautiful than they were before. And as they turned to go back inside, back to their guests and their new life and all the tomorrows stretching ahead of them, Rebecca thought about the letters Emma had written and never sent. All those words of love hidden in an attic, waiting to be found at exactly the right moment. Sometimes the things we hide away come back to us when we need them most. Sometimes love survives despite our best efforts to protect ourselves from it. And sometimes, just sometimes, broken things don't stay broken forever. They heal. They rebuild. They become home. Thank you for following this journey of love, loss, and second chances. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel for more emotionally powerful stories. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful narratives. Until next time.